What about Hulk Hogan? How was he to you guys?
He was good to us. He's professional. You know, I never talked to him in depth about anything, but he always said hi. He always would shake your hand. He never didn't act like he was too good.
Right.
You know, so. And I remember one day I came up to him and I said, hey, you know, I just want to say thank you. I told him who I was. And I said, as far as I'm concerned, if it wasn't for people like you, I probably wouldn't be here today. And he said, hey, he's like, hey, brother, you know, hey, brother, you know, it's nice to see that you appreciate, you know, what's going on in the business. And he said a couple other things to me too, but, you know, he's a good guy.
What do you think the downfall of WCW was attributed to?
I heard, and plus from what the things I saw, like in the last couple of months of it, it just seemed like they were doing really good for a long time. And then all of a sudden, I guess they were losing the ratings, but people didn't still pay the same amount. People had those fixed contracts where whether the company was doing bad or good, they still was going to make tons of money. And some people didn't work as hard. You know, they was already making the money, so why do I have to work harder?
All right.
That's why when we got our contract, it was based off of you get this X amount, and when you do, the more shows you do, the more money you get. So it was like an incentive to us. So I think that kind of was why. Plus, some of the things that was going on in the office too, I heard, you know, they was giving people positions and then the wrestlers didn't respect them, and respect is everything in wrestling. So if the boys don't respect who's in the office, you know, things tend to fall apart, and that's kind of, I think, what happened.
Were you bitter about the company going under?
No, I wasn't bitter because WCW worst days was my best days because that's when I came on TV. I kind of did my homework, and I didn't think WCW was going to go out of business. So I was planning on making millions and so on and so forth. So that's the kind of only thing I didn't anticipate was WCW going out of business. I wasn't bitter because I was just happy that I got the break that I got before they went out of business. Because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have went straight to WWE. I wouldn't have been able to go to Japan for a year and a half, and I wouldn't have, you know, probably made it to TNA. So, you know, WCW was my doors to wrestling.
How did you find out it was being sold?
Everybody's talking about it for months. I mean, it wasn't like all of a sudden one day they got sold. It was more like every week we came in, it was like we was doing shows every week, and then we was doing 2 shows in one night. So you knew something was going on. Then we kept hearing about possible buyers. Then we kept hearing about people in Vegas that might buy the company. Then we heard Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan might do something. So we knew something was going to happen. We just didn't know what was going to happen.
Do you think if Bischoff bought the company, you would have been part of it?
I don't know. I do know that when Bischoff was back there, like first he was with the company, then he left, and then he came back.
Right.
And him and Russo had something to do with it. I know he was happy with my work. I know one week he wasn't there, and we were doing a cruiserweight deal. Actually, it was the first time ever cruiserweight tag team belts. But he wasn't there this one week, but he was watching the show because I remember Lash did a match with Jimmy Yang. And Eric called. I guess he was pissed off because they came to me and Billy because we were the next match. No, it was another match, and then it was us. And they's like, Eric just called. He's watching. He's not happy with what we're doing. We need to step it up when we get out there. And I looked at Billy, and Billy's like, don't worry about it.
Right.
You know, just go out there and do what we do. I'm like, all right. And sure enough, we came in the back, and he's like, oh, man, great. That was a really good match, and so on and so forth. And, you know, but yeah, he had something to do with it. He was definitely always in the mix.
What about Sting? What are your thoughts on Sting, and how did he treat you?
Sting, when I first met Sting, he didn't really talk to us much. Like, we would say hi to him. He would just shake our hands, sometimes say hi, but he didn't really talk to us too much. But then after a couple of months, I guess they watched what we did and see who was what. I wasn't arrogant. I was arrogant and in my character, but in the back room, I wasn't arrogant. I was just another wrestler trying to make it. So then it got to a point where he started speaking, hey, how you doing, so on and so forth. Right. I saw what you did. That was pretty good. You know, he started talking more and more. And then one day he walked up to me and said, Elix. And I almost fell on the floor. Huh. You know, he knew my name. And I was like, Sting know my name. It's like, oh, God, you know. But I think with those guys, because they're old school, so they just wanted to make sure that we respect the business and respect them. So it wasn't about just because we made it. We didn't make it. We still had to prove ourselves to them. So
right. What about Lex Luger? How was he?
Lex was Lex.
A lot of people say that.
Towards the end, we got along good. But in the beginning, let me tell you, Lex was like before I got into wrestling, Lex has always had a great body. Like to me, he was a big guy. So to me, he didn't. And this was before I even got into wrestling. I always thought he was a big guy, so he shouldn't have to mat wrestle. He should be throwing guys around, so on and so forth. And now this is Elix the fan talking. So when I finally got to meet Lex, I always wanted to look like him. You know, I always wish I was tall as he was, and so on and so forth. So when I got to Lex, you know, I heard he had a school in Atlanta, a gym in Atlanta. So of course I joined. You know, it's Lex Gym. He's a wrestler. I'm a wrestler. I got to join. So the first day I met him at the gym. My brother happened to come in from New York. So I said, come on, I'm going to take you to the wrestling school. We might meet a couple of people. But, you know, we can't go up and talk to him. Just say hi and walk away.
Right.
I see Lex, and all of a sudden, all the rules out the window because Lex is like Lex Luger. So I go up to him, hi, I'm Elix Skipper. I'm learning how to wrestle. This is my brother so-and-so and such and such. You know, one day I hope I'll be able to get in the ring and wrestle with you. Lex was doing a leg machine. He looked over at me, shook his head. I had my hand out to shake his. He never shook my hand. He's just like, yeah, whatever. And I was like, okay, it was nice talking to you. I went back to my brother. My brother wanted to beat him up. And my brother's like, what the hell was that? I said, I was like, this wrestler's not really supposed to talk to him. My brother was like, he treated you like shit. He said, that's not what you came into wrestling for. You work hard just as anybody else. One day you're going to make it and be able to throw it back in his face. I was like, no, that's not the way it worked. But after I was thinking about what my brother said, after that day, I never spoke to him again. Like he would be with Liz and I would speak to Liz and wouldn't say a word to him. And then one day he came up to me and said hi and said his name and so on and so forth. And he started talking to me and I just started talking to him. So we've gotten along ever since then. And to this day, he still know my name. But when we first met, it was kind of rocky.
What about Bill Goldberg? What was he like?
Bill was cool as hell. He used to come down to the school. He used to train. When I made it to school, he just got out of the power plant, but he would come down every now and then. Plus, the new school we got was like the show-off school, so they would have people from Japan come in. Of course, Bill would come in, or we have people come in, invest in money, and Bill would come down to the school. He would get in the ring and work with us and do things, and then, just talking to him in the ring, like I did a move, I can't remember it, to save my life, and he looked at me and said, where'd you get that from? I said, I studied tapes from Japan. He started laughing. He's like, oh, me too. He said, you probably got it from this tape because that's where I saw it, and it was just, we hit it off right then and there. And I was like, I got a martial arts background. And he's like, oh, man, why don't you do more kicks? I was like, no, I want to save it. I want to wrestle first. I'll just do a few kicks and then, I'll explode and show him I can really do martial arts. But I just come to find out he was just in the right place at the right time with the right look. And that's how he got where he was. But a lot of people say he was arrogant and cocky, but
you never saw it.
I never saw it.
Watch thousands of exclusive shoot interviews right now on TitleMatchNetwork.com.